Wow, that looks like my closing little... How's it going? Welcome back to another great video with your wonderful host, The Savior. Yes, that's right, welcome back to the channel. Now, I have recently just transitioned my setup to a new computer, so I had to set up everything all over again. Hopefully this is looking nice. Let me know what you think, if you like this new setup, or if you just want the original little box. I guess it doesn't matter, but I think it looks a little bit more professional. I'm having a few troubles with my mic, so let me know how it sounds and I can adjust it for the next video. But today we are taking a look at Legacy of Kain, okay, Soul Reaver Remastered. Now, in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what the original game was, give you an updated review of Legacy of Kain, and then I'm also going to dissect the Soul Reaver Remastered and give you a review of that from everything that I've actually seen with the early access. I'm also going to be dissecting some of the story elements, but not go into any spoiler territory, because if you're like me, you're completely new to this series, okay? I had no idea what this game was. I know it looked cool, and I know I'm a massive fan of classic PlayStation 2 games. They're just the best. I literally just talked about Ratchet & Clank before. And also, I know it gives me some strong Dark Souls vibes, okay? And I absolutely love Dark Souls, if you cannot tell. And it's got that same kind of figure it out, go off into the wild, and, you know, we're not going to hold your hand, and you just have to, you know, figure it out. And it's got that classic dark fantasy look to it with gothic style as well, and it has vampires. It's just got a lot going on for it, and it has such a cool death mechanic where you're literally layering two worlds on top of each other. And the fact that it was done back then, you know, in 1999, I believe, to 2002, I think that's when they came out. I did my research, okay, but it's just insane that they've got all of these different gameplay mechanics going on. And it's a proper game, okay? It's not like modern day gaming. It respects the people who play this game to actually have a brain. It deals with some interesting philosophical themes, and I'm also going to break down the philosophy of Legacy of Kain Remastered, and just talk about this game, what it is for new people, and what the remaster offers, and what the actual original experience is like, because at the end of the day, this is just a graphical, you know, reshade on top of it, okay? The core elements, the core gameplay is exactly the same, and I went back to play it to give you a Legacy of Kain Remastered review. So let's get into this. If you're new, make sure that you do subscribe. I put everything that I am into this channel, and I'm so passionate about building up this community of wise ones. If you love gaming analysis, reviews, early reviews, and philosophical videos, you're in the right place, because I combine all of these things together. So subscribe right now, become a wise one, join this fantastic community. I just love discussing anything with you guys, so sound off in the comments, give the video a like, because I'm a YouTube shill. But I'm going to give you an overview of this game and then touch on what the actual remaster offers. But, you know, it's a bunch of stuff, actually. Aspyr, let's quickly get that elephant out of the room. Let's kick it out, shall we? Because Aspyr, I don't really trust them, okay, as a developer, let's be honest. I don't think that many people were very happy with what happened with Star Wars Battlefront, the collection. It was quite just disgusting and sad to see, because that was my childhood. And I know a lot of you felt the same way. A lot of you are, you know, maybe around the same age as me, like 27, 30, whatever, around that time of, you know, existential crisis. And we grew up on those games. They mean a lot to us, and they completely butchered that release. And the same thing with Star Wars Bounty Hunter. You know, it was a just mediocre remaster. And these guys are remasters, okay? They are not remakers. And it's very evident, but it looks like they are doing some things right with this one, okay? So first of all, you can actually switch between two graphical modes on the fly, similar to the Halo Master Chief Collection, and I absolutely love that feature. I just think that's brilliant. That's how remasters should be done, to really soak up the atmosphere and the art in the original, and then, you know, marvel at graphical new technology. Even though it's not that much of a big difference here, they really haven't done that much. It's more of a kind of AI upscale, to be honest, and some better textures, better shadows, but it's more about what they have actually added to the game, because there is added content in this game which is pretty incredible, and just quality of life features like modern controls, a new map, and, you know, photo mode and all that kind of stuff, so I'm going to discuss all of that. But let's actually discuss what the hell this game is, because a lot of you probably don't even know this game. A lot of people are going to be excited to go back and play this if you did grow up and play this back in the day. But for a lot of people, you should not sleep on Soul Reaver Remastered. Back in the day, man, PS2 games, okay, this was when creativity was at its peak, okay? It wasn't about focusing on ulterior motives, you know, with investors and the gaming industry becoming into this kind of Hollywood bubble where they are just, you know, basically selling you a bunch of BS, forcing modern day ideologies into their games, access journalism, early access stuff. It goes on and on and on with modern day gaming. This was back when the people who played the games were the people who developed the games, and vice versa. This is when, you know, passion was actually put into these projects. The year was 1999, okay, and the second one was around 2002. These games are so interesting because basically what they are is Zelda-like Metroidvania platformers with a little bit of Prince of Persia DNA thrown in there. And if that sounds like a good time to you, then, you know, me and you, let's grab a drink, okay? Let's get a beer sometime, because this is right up my alley. And even though this was, you know, back in the day, and you wouldn't have, you know, high budget cinematic storytelling, the story on offer here is far more interesting than most modern day gaming, when it's just like, dumb, watch the cinematic, take away control, and let's lecture the player on basic stuff, because, you know, let's face it, modern day gamers are a bunch of mouth-breathing idiots, and we don't actually like deep philosophical stories. No, okay, this game hits you with many different themes around morality, the permanence of, you know, just body, consciousness, metaphysics, and all of this stuff. But the gameplay itself is mostly a 3D puzzler, okay, a 3D platformer, and some light combat. And basically it will remind you of earlier games like Prince of Persia, the classics, and maybe perhaps Zelda and all that kind of stuff. And you were a vampire lord, and you basically ruled over this land as, you know, kind of an elite class. But basically the king or emperor of the land did not like the fact that you had that much potential, and he kicks you down into the abyss where you are left to rot for a long time, okay? And as your body decays, you kind of wake up and you find that you're not really a vampire anymore, and you actually hunger for souls, the essence of consciousness itself, not just simple blood. So I do hope you enjoy this Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver Remastered review. This game, you know, you should not sleep on Soul Reaver Legacy of Kain, because I honestly think that this has such an interesting story to tell, retro gameplay that actually feels refreshing compared to modern day games, to be honest, and a game that actually respects your time, your, you know, intelligence. Now, because it is very old school, the platforming does feel quite rough around the edges, but luckily with the remastered, the Soul Reaver Remastered edition, you actually get updated control, so it's not going to feel absolutely terrible anymore. And as you can see here, the textures have been completely recrafted or upscaled. I'm not quite sure which, to be honest. I think it has actually, you know, been recreated for some of the, you know, characters and models and stuff like that. Some of it might just be upscaling. So from now on, you won't actually have to fight with the camera like you did with the original. As you can see, you know, it does look very dated when you compare it to the resolution of the remaster now, which is a, you know, big win if you ask me, because you can have that same retro art style but have it with much better resolution and better textures like I just showed you. So that is a massive win if you ask me, but the actual gameplay stays the same. So now, yes, you don't have to fight with the camera. That's a huge thing, because there's a lot of platforming in this game, a lot of puzzle solving. Now, the actual world is kind of semi-open world, okay? So you have these big locations to explore, and you can actually tackle objectives in any way that you want, to a degree, okay? Not completely, but for the most part, it does feel very Souls-esque in that regard, okay? Like I said, I'm gonna keep referencing Souls in every goddamn video probably, but it does feel like, but it does allow for that exploration, okay? And that is a massive win for me, because I just really enjoy that type of gameplay. That's a huge positive. So that's another positive. And just the fact that this is, you know, a 3D platformer, puzzler, if you like that type of thing. There's different Metroidvania elements in this game, So basically you can unlock abilities to learn how to wall climb, you can unlock abilities to actually traverse the water, for example, and swim, because in Legacy of Kain, water is actually poisonous to you. But you can unlock abilities to actually explore the water, like I said, climb up walls, or even, kind of phase through certain objects to allow for progression. So it's a very interesting system in that regard, that you can actually skip content, which is quite refreshing. The next is a positive but a slight negative, okay? So the combat in this game is not that great. It's very much just the original, like I said, basic attacks and then a heavy kind of wind-up power attack. And you can do some pretty cool stuff like impaling them, but it's no Prince of Persia where you're, gonna be mastering combos and, there's gonna be so many different cool moves that you can pull off. It is quite, kind of Zelda-esque, Ocarina of Time feeling, where you just lock onto a target and then you just bash them. It's not the most interesting, but luckily that's not where the game really shines. But it's not going to have a massive skill tree to upgrade your combat elements, so if you expect that, then you want to look elsewhere, because it's much more simplistic, stripped down, but that's not the focus of this game. It's more the atmosphere, the story, the 3D puzzling, the exploration, which is done so well. And this is true for the original as well. Of course, I'm mostly talking about both games because they are exactly the same. It's just got a graphical upgrade. That's all you need to know. And this is a Soul Reaver review, but also a Soul Reaver Remastered review, because I am going to be talking about what I have seen with the upgrade with the graphics, because that's pretty much all you get, and some of the extended levels. So basically you can have access to the Mortal Realm and the Soul Realm, which is super cool and it's very interesting. Most games don't have this type of feature. Only a few modern day games have actually tried it. I think Lords of the Fallen, that kind of Souls-like game that didn't really do well originally, and then they made a second one that was also very janky, that tried to copy that kind of feature, but it just doesn't do it as well as this classic, okay? And this basically changes how you interact with puzzles. It even changes physics, okay? So in the Soul Realm, you're not going to actually have physical weight, so that changes the whole layout to 3D platforming and puzzles and all that stuff. And it's so cool, especially with the second one, because you're going to be time jumping around. And like I said, it does ask a lot of philosophical questions in this game, which I'll get to. But just mechanically speaking, it's very cool to have a game experiment with time jumps. We have seen that in other games, but not just with time jumps, but actually having two worlds laid on top of each other. This is when, like I said, experimentation was actually, important and integral to make a game successful back then. Like I've also said, they've added, quality of life improvements like a world map, which kind of takes away some of the, exploration feel, if you ask me, but it is still nice to have for new players, because they might not be used to this type of game where it literally tells you nothing. But I think that's the magic of older games, and that's what we need more in the gaming industry, is truly to be immersed in these worlds, not have any outside influence, and just get lost in them, have them tell their own story, their own universal ideologies, instead of forcing, modern day ideologies into gaming and taking away control from the player. But yeah, it does have a photo mode, it has the map, it also has a lore reader, so you can learn more about the universe, which I really like. The graphical switch, which is so cool because I really love that feature. It reminds me of Halo, like I said, but like I said, it's not that much of a big shock compared to the Halo remake, because this is just a simple remaster, so bear that in mind. And you do get access to the lost levels that I haven't seen, which is the Undercity, the Smokestack, and a few more. So some of the original content that was missing from the game has kind of been restored. But a big thing that I want to point out is the day and night cycle in some areas. That just makes it feel much more immersive, if you ask me, and I really like that feature. But honestly, don't expect that much, because this is Aspyr, okay, and honestly, they basically just repackage older games and make them playable for the most part, so just bear that in mind. But I still do like the fact that we are getting a chance to play older games bundled together. So now for this part of the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver Remastered review, I'm going to be talking about some of the philosophical aspects of this game, so I do hope you enjoy that. Because I do think that is very important, and I love to do that in my game reviews, because I just think it's very important in anything, in media, to analyze and to question, because then you can reflect on yourself how the actual art form impacts you. And that's the most beautiful thing for me, is how it changes the way we think with whatever we're engaging with, be it any form of media. And sadly that is being lost today in new media. So like I said, this game deals a lot with morality and mortality, okay? And it kind of borrows elements from Nietzsche's philosophy around the idea of the master morality, and slave morality. And basically Nietzsche's idea of the master's morality is this idea that because by nature we are a dominating, species, okay? We, rise through power, okay? We set up social hierarchies. Just look at the world around you, okay? You are basically a slave to the government. So master morality deals with things like strength and the will to exist, the will to push through suffering and get some kind of meaning from suffering, okay? And that's very different to the slave morality, okay? And his idea was, feelings like empathy, compassion. This is just simply a reaction to those natural, some might say darker aspects to human nature, but it's these darker aspects, or these, just natural human actions that we have, strength and the will to conquer, the will to expand our knowledge and to, experiment and innovate. Human beings are now kind of apologetic for that side of their nature, but Nietzsche believed that it was simply a reaction to those natural responses, and we shouldn't be ashamed to that, and that, brings the rise to, the Übermensch philosophy, becoming the best that you can, and the will to power, the will to strength, basically meaning that you shouldn't apologize for your natural desires. And Nietzsche's idea around morality also fit in with the themes of mortality in this game, because basically you have become a Soul Reaver, okay? You have become this other creature that feeds on souls, and you have lost your kind of identity, and you've lost touch with yourself and the place around you because so much time has passed. And basically it's a way of aligning yourself with nature and not to, kind of escape your fate per se, but accept the fact that everything is in a state of decay, everything is in a state of change. It wasn't really like how the Stoics viewed it, which is much more aligned with my own personal beliefs, and that heavily reflects this game, because this game is intertwined so well with mortality and the idea that you can't really escape your fate, okay, that you have to accept your fate, and trying to change your fate, going back into time and trying to alter your metaphysical consciousness and what has already transpired only leads to, worse outcomes. And I think that's such a cool message in any type of media. I do hope you enjoyed this Soul Reaver review and a look at the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver Remastered edition and kind of my review of that game, because they are essentially the same game, okay, just with some graphical changes. And I hope this helped some new players figure out if you actually want to play this game or not. But basically, at the end of the day, this is a great third-person, action-adventure game, but heavily focused on exploration with some Metroidvania gameplay elements where you have to find and unlock new abilities to progress. It's got that very retro feel where it really does allow you just to be, who you are. It really does allow you for freedom of exploration. Like I said, you can even sequence break, which I really love. Some basic combat, but overall a story that is 100% worth experiencing in my opinion. And now with the remastered, just having that touch up of graphical fidelity, better resolution, some added content, that just makes this game so much better. It does seem that Aspyr have learned they shouldn't really try and tackle multiplayer experiences, but single player games like this, I really do think it's great to have them, just in a better package with some updated controls. And if you love the old school classic Zelda games of, figuring out, puzzles and that kind of basic combat system, but exploring these environments, doing 3D platforming, all of that good stuff with an actual difficulty curve to it, and just cool mechanics like the death mechanic, that truly makes this game special in my eyes. So I do hope you enjoyed the Soul Reaver Remastered review, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace out.